Welcome to 9 News. The families of Flight 370 are making a sad journey to Perth tonight. They're due to start arriving in the early hours of tomorrow morning after Malaysia declared that there was no hope of survival. Here are the key points. The Malaysian Prime Minister told the world that all evidence pointed to the jet crashing in the southern Indian Ocean. The evidence includes satellite tracking from British space engineers. So far, no wreckage has been recovered, despite sightings of what could be debris. The air and sea search was suspended today because of bad weather. Alice Pooley, the first arrivals are expected here soon.
Tim, that's right. The first relatives are expected to arrive here early tomorrow morning. As you said, it's an incredibly sad journey for them. They come here in grief to be as close as they can to the search zone in the last place where flight MH370 is thought to have gone down, even though it's over 2,000 kilometres from here. Now, Malaysia Airlines has over 700 support workers for these family members. It's thought a large portion of them will also be making the journey here to Perth. Our Prime Minister, Tony Abbott, has thrown his and the country's support behind these men, women and children. He's offered to fast-track their visa applications and waive the fee.
I understand that the loved ones of those on that plane may well wish to come to Australia in coming days and weeks. They will find a welcoming country that is more than willing to embrace them in this very difficult time.
Now, it's understood the family members will also be taken on a tour of the search zone if they wish to do so and when the mission resumes. Tim?
Alice, thank you. And for those families, the awful reality came last night, 17 days after Flight 370 vanished from radar screens. The message from Malaysia's Prime Minister: there is no hope.
China has been hardest hit, 153 victims, and the reaction in Beijing was a mixture of distress and anger. It was completely understandable. This woman lost 3 members of her family, her son, his wife and her grandchild. I beg you, she cries, it can't be like this. For some, the news they'd long dreaded had come via a text. Malaysian Airlines deeply regrets that we have to assume beyond any reasonable doubt that MH370 has been lost, it said. Hand in hand and a nod between them, a son and a sister of Rod and Mary Burrows bravely agree to share their grief.
Our family is trying to come to terms with this terrible tragedy. We dearly love and will miss our mum and dad.
The Brisbane grandparents were travelling with best friends Bob and Kathy Lawton. It was meant to be a dream holiday to China. But where it actually crashed and why still remains a mystery. One of Britain's most reputable newspapers, the Daily Telegraph, today claimed it was an apparent suicide mission. But Malaysian investigators insist the focus is moving towards mechanical failure or a fire on board.
I don't want to speculate in terms of what happened to the aircraft. I think the investigation is ongoing. Okay, I think our focus is really for the family members.
But the airline is in crisis.
Will I resign?
Calls for the CEO to be sacked are getting louder, and still so many questions about the hunt for the aircraft. Despite solid evidence the plane had turned hard left, the authorities continued to search in the wrong place for more than a week. For some of the grieving families, that is unforgivable. Damien Ryan, 9 News.
And Perth mum Danica Weeks, whose husband Paul was on board the plane, has spent the day with her 2 sons and comforted by friends. She told 9 News the confirmation that her husband died in a crash in the southern Indian Ocean was just unbelievable. Paul Weeks was on his way to Mongolia to start a dream job when the plane went down. Malaysian Airlines has offered the Weeks family, along with all other relatives, $5,000 in compensation. Perth is preparing to host the families of Flight 370. Packed hotels have promised to do whatever they can to accommodate them. Estelle Lewis, we could see hundreds of relatives here over the next few days.
Yes, Tim, many of the families are from China. They'll need support and community groups here are already preparing to help. The Changhua Association has up to 80 volunteers on standby, ready to translate for the relatives and assist with access to counselling and religious support.
We speak the language, we know what sort of food they eat and the cultural background and so on. And I think that in itself will help a lot in their grieving process.
The Australian Hotels Association has contacted Malaysian Airlines and the Chinese Consulate here in Perth, offering to coordinate urgent accommodation for the families. It's likely they'll be put up in the city where there's more room for larger bookings.
The industry has a very good track record of working and cooperating together in difficult times like this, and we are more than willing to assist.
Tim, so far there's no confirmation of exactly how many families will come to Perth, but clearly planning is underway.
Estelle, thank you. They found no wreckage, but still Malaysian authorities confirmed the flight crashed and there were no survivors. That's because they relied on British scientists who used technology to prove the plane went down 2,500 kilometres off our coast.
Scientists, mathematicians, engineers, the brains trust tasked with aviation mystery MH370. British satellite company Inmarsat analysed the electronic signals or pings sent by the aircraft from takeoff. Using that data combined with fuel load, it was able to determine conclusively that the Boeing 777 crashed in the southern Indian Ocean.
We have worked these numbers from our data as hard as we possibly can. We can give you a likely area of the Southern Ocean, but we can't tell you exactly where to look.
Ships and aircraft are being assisted in the recovery mission by Chinese and American spy satellites, searching for floating debris in a 7,000 square kilometre area. They'll need to recover the flight data recorder and cockpit voice recorder, the black boxes, before the battery-powered signal they emit fades away. The underwater locator beacons can last for up to 30 days, but we're already 17 days into the search. Well, it's not a box and it's not black, but a flight data recorder just like this one is what search crews will be looking for in the coming days. Now, on the end here is the pinger. Now, this is activated on impact with the water. It sends out a pulse every second. That's an electronic signal which can be detected up to 3.5 kilometres away. As you can see, it's heavy duty, it's shock-proof, it's heat-proof, it's waterproof. It's usually mounted towards the tail of the aircraft. That's the place on board the plane which is most likely to remain intact should there be a crash. A black box locator is on its way from America. However, if the battery on the black box runs out, crews will have to rely on sonar equipment to find debris on the ocean floor. This unmanned submarine can reach depths of up to 6,000 metres and remain underwater for 20 hours.
It scans out about 600 metres on either side of the vehicle. So it will go down a row, it will turn and come back down again on the other side. What it's doing is the side scan is running and it looks out and is getting returns back from primarily hard objects that are on the bottom.
Lizzie Pearl, 9 News.
There are fears tonight that vital evidence will be lost because of the difficult conditions in the search area. The search was suspended this morning because of bad weather. Andrew Nelson, there were massive seas out there today, but you've got some breaking news on when it might resume.
Well, that's exactly right, Tim. We've just heard from AMSA that the search will resume tomorrow in the southern Indian Ocean. Now, this is going to involve 12 aircraft from 6 different countries, with a 7th also offering its assistance. Now, we must remember this is a search and recovery operation, so debris is obviously the central focus of this search. Now, in that southern Indian Ocean search zone, there was a massive setback today with aircraft not allowed to enter that area. The search suspended entirely. Gale force winds measuring nearly 80 kilometres an hour, heavy rain, low cloud, big swells and waves of up to 2 metres. This combination of elements, Tim, was creating a real awful scenario for the military involved in this operation. They simply weren't allowed to head to that zone today. We did hear from the Defence Minister today, David Johnston, who says that area is treacherous and unpredictable.
Remember, this part of the world, this Southern Ocean, has shipwrecked many, many sailors in our history in Western Australia. It is rough. Sea State 7, you know, there are 20, 30 metre waves. It is very, very dangerous, even for big Panamax class ships.
Tim, so there was absolutely no movement at the RAF base Pierce where I'm standing at the moment. The plane's grounded, but it's expected it'll resume tomorrow.
They're the front line of the search operation, but these planes are grounded, held up on the tarmac and unable to take off. Today, a rare chance to rest and a chance to assess the size of the task ahead.
I want to take the opportunity to publicly thank all of the crews and all of the teams that keep these planes flying.
The operation here remains one of the largest ever of its kind.
We're not searching for a needle in a haystack, we're still trying to define where the haystack is.
The last few days of searching have been relentless, but the teams are now buoyed by a potentially positive sighting from an Australian Orion.
Everyone is quite hyped. I think fatigue's starting to set in for the guys. We were going hammer and tongs there.
Several items were spotted in the water. What they are isn't yet clear, but smoke beacons and GPS positioners have been dropped, marking the debris location.
It's been the first time we've actually certified that we've seen something and got photographs.
HMAS Success was dispatched to retrieve the objects, but bad weather meant it had to turn around. It's now south of the search area. Also hampered by the hazardous conditions, a Chinese icebreaker. It too is on standby to find and pick up any possible debris. The trouble is, the ocean currents are so strong, any delays could be critical.
Every day that's been lost now means that it will be harder to track back where exactly the plane hit the water.
There are two main currents battering the Southern Ocean. Both will drive and drift the debris across large areas. If the search can resume tomorrow, it will be helped by the arrival of the Japanese Disaster Relief Team. It's a specialist unit skilled in managing emergencies. Its members all experts at coordinating complex international affairs. Simon Boda, 9 News.
And be watching for a 9 News special on the mystery of MH370. What happened tonight at 9:40.